This morning, I am joined by Jonathan Stokes. He is the writer and director for the Saban film survival thriller Wildcat. Jonathan, do you want to give us a little synopsis of what we can expect?
Um, sure. A woman finds herself taken hostage alone in a room, and she has to figure out who her captors are and what they want from her. And perhaps through her ingenuity, figure out a way to escape and outsmart her captors in the process.
No, when it comes to a film like this, one thing that's really important to mention is that it entirely takes place in a single room. When I found that out beforehand, I was very critical because like, all right, that means there's gonna be two or three actors in this act that really have to bring it. Do you want to talk about the work that Georgina Campbell did, Luke Bernward, and Mito Hamada did in really highlighting their acting chops in order to make it work for one single room?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. That was my intention in writing the whole script. Was I just wanted to create a platform for the actors. The whole intention was if I can create a really actor centric performance piece. I hope performance piece doesn't sound too pretentious, but uh, I love actors and I love the theater, and the whole goal there was I wanted this to be sort of my poor man's Black Swan, in that the same way that Natalie Portman got to play the whole panoply of emotions through the course of that amazing Aronofsky movie. I wanted to do that in one room where we just let Georgina Campbell use every single tool in her toolkit and every scene be playing a different emotion to the nth degree.
Yeah, it's quite the growth in characters that you get. I think for me, the most powerful scene was between Abu Khalid and Kadia when they start really exchanging information about their personal lives, the emotion on their faces, and kind of almost the little bit of respect maybe they gain, but also information he gains. I don't want to give too much away. Obviously, we want everyone to enjoy the film, but the intensity of that scene, I think overall sold the rest of the movie for me.
Oh, wow. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it was such a pleasure getting to watch those actors work every day and discover humanity in their characters, and watching these characters who are bitter opponents gain a begrudging respect for each other.
That's the key word that I actually wanted to talk to you about next was the way you humanize the antagonist. We're used to seeing a lot of times in kind of films, not like this, similar where people get kidnapped, where you really just see that you really just see that exterior, almost stereotypical type of extremist, terrorist, leader of a group. And in this case, you really took your time, especially with the Khalid, and even I found some joy in the torture with his phone calls. I know it's kind of weird, but that was your intention, I'm assuming, to really humanize all the characters, not just your protagonist.
Yeah, that was my fond hope. So yeah, thank you for saying all of that. Yeah, people are really complicated and full of contradictions, right? And Adolf Hitler loved animals and was really nice to his dog. I mean, uh, you know, Gandhi, I think, beat his wife at some point. I mean, so you can be the best guy in the world or the worst person in the world and still have good traits or bad traits. So yeah, I think in anything that one writes, one should try to make sure that your bad guy is not 100% bad, and your good guy isn't 100% good.
Can you talk a little bit about the real life heroes that inspired this story for you?
Sure. Yeah, for me, the big inspiration was there were a bunch actually. I read Amanda Lindhout's book. There's a number of journalists who've been kidnapped and written amazing books about it. Um, but also a big inspiration for me was actually Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which I happened to be reading when I sat down to write the script. He was a psychotherapist who was sent to Auschwitz and observed the concentration camps through the eyes of psychologists, and found that people's attitudes often had a correlation with whether or not they would survive the camps. That those that gave up were more likely to catch typhoid and die, in his estimation. And so that was a big inspiration for me in writing the script. Was if you never give up, and you, even in a powerless situation, trapped alone in a room as a hostage, if you keep your self-respect and your dignity, um, people will eventually perhaps treat you with more respect and dignity, and you might be able to find an opportunity to escape.
Any challenges in making sure that that journey for Kadia was paced well? Because you did it. I thought it was done very well. It didn't just, there wasn't a, oh, this is where it transitioned. It was a slow build, and by the end of it, I think it was almost a surprise. Oh wow, yeah. But then you realize, oh, this was the whole journey. It was actually, it works. And how was your writing process for that?
Well, thank you for saying that. I think perhaps there are maybe two things that may have helped in that. Um, yeah, Georgina, the actress, and I spent a lot of time talking about her character's backstory and her wound and what happened in her past. And the whole movie is an allegory for her overcoming the traumas of her past through this extreme situation. And so I think that because Georgina did so much of that internal work, it helped the external work shine through. I think that the other thing that may have helped perhaps is that we had the amazing luxury of shooting in chronological order, because we're shooting in one room. We shot the whole thing in one room. So we didn't have to have night shoots or worry about the weather or do company moves. We had the luxury of shooting it like a stage play, where every single day we've moved on to the next scene. And so I think that helped Georgina do an even more tremendous job than she otherwise would have, perhaps, of tracking her character's growth in slow, steady increments from scene to scene.
And did you enjoy the aspect of shooting it on a single set? I know you said you really like theater, so obviously that comes as a plus. Any challenges in shooting in one location?
Yes and no. I loved. I'll never have that luxurious and easy a filmmaking experience ever again. I mean, the schedule was predictable. You just roll into work and punch your card, essentially. There's no high-speed car chase you have to figure out how to film or anything like that. So in that regard, it was a pretty relaxed and I think comfortable set, because so many of the normal stresses of filming are removed when you're in the same set every single day. I think the challenges were where to put the camera when you've got four walls. So we had to have some of the walls fly away, and it really forced I thought the DP was just amazing. His name's Adam Lee, so talented, but it really forced us to figure out, where are we going to put the camera now? We've explored all these other options now. How are we going to make this scene feel different so that the audience can feel like we're not stuck in one room the whole movie, that we're in lots of different locations depending on the mood of each scene? That challenge was really, really fun. And Adam had the camera on a jib pretty much the whole time. So I think there's a surprising amount of movement in the camera, perhaps, considering we're stuck in one room.
So I was going to ask that. Was it shot with a single camera, or did you have multiple shots to kind of see if maybe a scene worked better from a different angle? Did you have to maybe do a couple of reshoots because maybe the performance was fine, but the angle wasn't quite there?
Yeah, there some of our trickier shots. We had to force those poor actors to go through it, for 6 or 7 takes. But yeah, in general, in Act One, when Georgina's the most locked down, both physically and sort of emotionally, the camera's the most locked down in Act One. And that as she begins to become more powerful throughout Act Two, the camera starts to become more and more freed up. And then by the end of Act 3, we actually go handheld for about 7 minutes toward the end there when things really get frenetic. And the hope there was that, I don't know, well, like we can geek out on this. I was really cribbing from Sidney Lumet in 12 Angry Men, where something like there's twice as many shots in the second half of the movie as in the first half of the movie. 12 Angry Men's a one-room movie, of course, but the pace of the edit just doubles in the second half of 12 Angry Men. And so I wanted to emulate from the best. And so I tried to make the pace just increase throughout the movie so that we don't get tired, hopefully, of being in one room. It becomes increasingly exciting, hopefully.
It does. I felt like it. I felt it. I enjoyed it. And so the last question I want to ask you is, what do you hope audiences take away from Wildcat?
Gosh, I hope that, I'm so pleased with everyone else's work in this movie. I'm so thrilled with the actors' performances. I hope that they are as impressed with Mito and Luke and Georgina and Ibrahim and everyone who did such a terrific job. Our composer, Nick, that whole score has no notes. It's entirely percussion. There's no tonality until the last 30 seconds in the movie. That was such a challenge for Nick as the composer to do percussion-only score. The editor, Matt Blundell, he and I just alone in a dark room cutting this thing together. And how do you create a sense of pace when it's characters just stuck in one 16-foot by 16-foot room for an entire 89 minutes or whatever? So I hope that audiences recognize the great work of the team that I was privileged to be a part of.
Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the film. We looking at Saban Films Wildcat, which is going to be in theaters April 23rd and then on demand digital April 27th. We hope to hear from you again soon.
Thanks, Emmanuel. This was fun.
All right, take care.